What is going on, guys? Welcome back into another video. In today's video, guys, I want to show you my favorite PvE Solar 3.0 build for my hunter during the season of the Haunted. Now, to start things off, I've got some unedited gameplay of myself running through the Last Wish raid, farming some ads, and you guys can see the potential of this build. Now, the way that we've set this up gives us the ability to get our supers back within 30 seconds and to always have all of our abilities when we need them the most. Now, in order to do that, we're going to be leaning heavily on our throwing knife melee and also trying to take advantage of the effects of Radiant and Restoration as much as possible. We're also going to be trying to synergize our exotic armor and weapon and our mods to really take this build to the next level. Now, for your guys' reference, I did throw on a stopwatch here in the video as well, and I paused the gameplay there so you guys could see how long it took for me to get one super to the next super. And honestly, we did this without even using a weapon. We're solely relying on our unlimited melees to get that super up super quick. I also want to note that the build that I was using in this video certainly has more potential because I was only running a 58 intellect in this. So if you guys can refine your build a little bit better, I certainly think that you could get your super back even quicker. Now, to start things off with our subclass, we are going to be using Blade Barrage for our super. This is going to pair really nicely with our exotic of choice, which is going to be Shards of Galanor. We'll touch on that here in just a moment. This is also one of the best DPS supers in the game and one of the best area of effect supers that you can use against ads as well. Now, we're going to be pairing this with Gambler's Dodge as our class ability. This is a dodge to perform a death tumble, avoiding enemy attacks. Dodging near enemies fully recharges your melee ability. Now, this is super important to our build because this is going to allow us to get our melee ability energy back anytime we really need it, as long as we have a dodge available. Now, moving over to our melee, we're going to be using Knife Trick for this one, and this gives us the ability to throw a fan of flaming knives that scorch targets on a hit. Now, the reason I'm going with this melee is because it gives us a little more forgiveness than some of the other options that we have, and it also gives us a greater area of effect as well. Now, moving over to our aspects, the first one I'm rolling with is going to be Knock 'em Down. This is going to allow our Blade Barrage to launch more projectiles, which is huge in our case, and we're also going to be able to get final blows with our equipped throwing knife to fully refund your melee energy while we're radiant, which is huge. This basically is going to allow us to have infinite melee throws anytime we need it. And the second one we're going to be rolling with is going to be On Your Mark. This is going to allow precision final blows to grant you and nearby allies increased weapon handling and reload speed for a short duration. This is going to stack 3 times. Also, activating your class ability immediately grants maximum stacks of On Your Mark. Now, honestly, guys, the only reason I'm using this is to gain an extra slot for our fragments. This is going to give us the ability to have 5 total fragments on our build. Now, moving over to our fragments, guys, the first one I'm using is going to be Ember of Ashes, and this is going to allow us to apply more scorch stacks to targets. And we're also going to be using Ember of Solace. This is going to allow our Radiant and Restoration effects applied to us to have increased duration, which is huge because we're relying on being radiant while we get those throwing knife kills to instantly get our melee energy back. Now, next up, we're going to be using Ember of Singeing. This is going to allow our class ability to recharge faster every time we scorch targets. That is huge because we're going to be scorching a lot of targets with those throwing knives. We're also going to be using Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy. This is also going to give us a +10 in recovery. And the last one we're going to be using is going to be Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. This one is massive because we need to try to stay radiant as much as possible. Now, moving over to the armor, guys, I am using an arc helmet, and the first mod that I want you to be using is going to be Melee Well Maker. This is powered melee combatant final blows. Spawn elemental wells matching your subclass energy type. I also threw on a double hands-on armor mod, which is going to allow us to gain bonus super energy on melee kills. Now, this is huge because we should be getting a ton of melee kills with the way that we've set up our subclass. Now, moving over to our gauntlets and our exotic of choice for this setup, we are using Shards of Galanor. Now, this does have the armor perk Sharp Edges, which means hits and kills with Blade Barrage will return super energy after the super ends. Now, I'm also throwing on Font of Wisdom, which is picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type, grants you a temporary significant increase in your intellect, improving the recharge rate of your super. And I'm pairing that with a double focusing strike armor mod, which grants us class ability energy when you cause damage with a melee attack. Now, moving over to our chest, the only one you need to be running here is going to be Well of Life. This is picking up a solar elemental well, grants increased regeneration for a short period of time. This is going to allow us to get those abilities back even faster. On our legs, we're going to be rolling Bountiful Wells. This is elemental well mods that cause you to spawn elemental wells can now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have equipped. We're also going to be pairing that with Innervation, which reduces our grenade cooldown each time we pick up an Orb of Power, and Recuperation, which replenishes health each time we pick up an Orb of Power as well. And last but not least, on our cloak, guys, we're going to be running Well of Ordnance. Picking up a solar elemental well grants you additional grenade energy. Multiple copies of this mod increase this effect. And we're going to be pairing this with Classy Restoration, which is activating your solar class ability, grants you restoration. Now remember, we're going to be dodging near enemies often, so this is super important to keep us safe in sticky situations. Now, just a quick recommendation, guys, I would try to get your resilience up to a tier 10 if possible. That way you get that 40% of damage reduction. Also, getting your mobility and intellect as high as possible to get your dodge and supers back as fast as you possibly can would be helpful as well. Now, moving over to our weapons, guys, you have a ton of flexibility here, so you could really roll anything you really want. You could do Bad Juju, you could do a Callous Mini Tool in your secondary, but the one that I've been using to really get our abilities back in a pinch is Traveler's Chosen. Now, this sidearm has the intrinsic trait of Gathering Light, which final blows with this weapon grant stacks of Gathering Light. You can long hold reload to consume stacks, granting melee, grenade, and class ability energy based on the number of stacks you have. Now, also, this weapon's catalyst gives you full auto, and the perk Osmosis, which is using your grenade ability, changes this weapon's damage type to match your subclass until you stow it. Now, the way I've been using this weapon with this build, guys, is I basically would throw a healing grenade down at my feet, making the weapon solar at that point with Osmosis, and then I would get 10 kills to get 10 stacks on the weapon and then stow it away for a rainy day. So if I messed up my melee, if I messed up my dodge, anything to where my abilities were completely drained, the stack of 10 on this weapon would instantly recharge my abilities, giving me everything that I needed right back. Now, I have to admit, after using this build over the last few streams, I've had a ton of fun using it. The amount of supers you get is absolutely cracked, and having infinite throwing knives and abilities is super clutch. It kind of reminds me of the Titan build we did with the Synthoceps, but it's a little bit better because you get more supers and you have a greater area of effect with those throwing knives. Now, just a quick reminder before we get going that I do stream over on Twitch 5 days a week. And also, if you guys are enjoying the content on the channel, hit that thumbs up and sub to the channel. It definitely helps me out, and I certainly appreciate all of your support. Also, guys, if you have any questions or recommendations about the build, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear some of your feedback and see what kind of builds you guys are using on your Hunter as well this season. Thanks again for stopping in and checking out the content on the channel, guys. Before we get going, I will leave you with a complete rundown of the entire build for your reference, and I will plan on seeing you guys in the next video.